Hello, I'm Chris Bach, and welcome back to another episode of Rock Roundtable. Now, today we are going to be discussing new metal, or whether we will be having a debate on whether or not new metal is good or bad, or just somewhere in between. So, today, for my panelists, I have with me Ben,
Hello.
Matthew,
What I've done!
Zach, shredder of guitars and destroyer of worlds,
Giddy up.
and Gregory Horton II, host of Green Corn Rebellion Show on YouTube, vice chair of the Potawatomi County Democratic Party, and a public school teacher.
Hey.
Alright, so, as I said just a second ago, we're going to be discussing new metal. I expect there to be quite a few disagreements here. I don't know if I'll talk as much as some of the other people here will. I'll mostly, I think, act as a moderator, but I do think I will give my opinions on some things as well. Who wants to go first? Give us your thoughts on new metal. Zach, you want to give us your thoughts on new metal?
New metal is good, and I will say that because the influence it's had on metal since about 2004, 2005 has been incredible. And even if you listen to new bands, they have a lot of that sound of the drop tunings, the replacing solos with breakdowns, that whole vibe. And even if you listen to bands like Trivium, who are the new, who are basically the new, I don't want to say the new Metallica, but they are the new Metallica.
I knew you were gonna say that!
They have a lot of that sound in them. And I think new metal is good partly because it's influenced the main genre of metal in a very good way.
Alright. Gregory, I want to hear from you next.
Wow. I mean, I agree with all of that, because if you notice, something I noticed whenever I was getting into other genres of metal outside of new metal, whenever I was younger, was that bands that weren't new metal themselves, but came out right around the time new metal was still kind of popular. So like bands like Shinedown, 3 Days Grace, Breaking Benjamin, Travell, their first couple of albums didn't have guitar solos in them. And it was because of new metal. No one wanted to hear guitar solos anymore. So therefore, the first Shinedown album, I don't know if there's any guitar solos on there. I think the first Travell was never known for their solos anyway, but yeah, and then eventually breakdowns became what was more popular because metalcore became a thing, or more of a thing. Deathcore became a genre, which is supposedly a mixture of death metal and metalcore, but whenever you listen to a lot of those bands, whether it be Suicide Silence or Whitechapel or Kelsey Grin, you hear a lot of Slipknot influence and even Korn influence, whether it be in the vocals or in the types of riffs that they play, and also lack of solos. But yeah, and another interesting thing that I have noticed since I started getting into old school hip hop is what pieces of old school rap got put into new metal when it came to the rapping vocals and the turntables and all that kind of stuff. So new metal is kind of a perfect mixture of whatever you want to call mid to late 80s metal, whether it be thrash, funk metal, alternative metal, and also golden age hip hop. So, and the fact that new metal itself has pretty much been the dominant influential genre over the last 25 years within metal and rock is a pretty cool thing. Like, that's the last group of legacy bands. You said Trivium is like the new Metallica. I would say they're the new Metallica, but they're definitely in that vein. I usually say the new Metallica is more or less like probably like Five Finger Death Punch maybe, or Avenged Sevenfold. But you're still
going to
on the
walk.
right track. Say what?
I'm gonna walk. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna walk back my statement of that Trivium's the new Metallica, and I'm going to instead say that Slipknot is pretty much the new Metallica more than I think about it.
Ooh, I think Slipknot's just Slipknot. Like, honestly, I think... I mean, if you're going to compare, like, a big four of nu metal to a big four of thrash, then I would say, even then, that's more like Korn's Metallica than,
I feel like...
But still, yeah. I agree with what you were saying, yeah.
Yeah, I just feel like Slipknot's had, like, more influence than... I know, like, Korn started the whole nu metal stuff, pretty much. But, I feel like Slipknot just had, like, a bigger influence on, metal since they started, since around Iowa.
I would say it's about equal amounts of influence. I would say Korn edges them out a little bit more, but it's kind of like a thing between, let's see, like, if we're arguing which one's more influential, Metallica or Megadeth, I don't know if we could actually, I mean, we could say Metallica, but a lot of bands that are also influenced by Metallica are also influenced by Megadeth, so there's a lot of overlap. Because those bands were all out at the same time. But I would say with Slipknot, you can probably hear their influence a lot more in the heavier bands, at least.
Yeah.
But also Slipknot, they're directly influenced by Limp Bizkit and Korn, as well as a whole bunch of death metal and thrash metal bands from the 80s and 90s. So it's kind of feeds back into each other.
Alright, well, now that someone's mentioned Korn, I'm glad you mentioned that because I have a very special guest I'd like to ask a question. So sitting next to me, I have a good friend of mine, a 15-ounce can of Del Monte fresh cut whole kernel corn. Can of corn. What's your opinion on nu metal? Alright, well that wasn't very intelligible, but useful commentary nonetheless. Alright, I guess we should give someone else a turn. Matthew, you want to go?
Sure. Nu metal isn't good. That's just how it is. It's probably like the most ridiculous music I've ever heard.
And that's why it's so good.
Well,
Really?
sure, but also there are plenty of ridiculous bands. Like Lonely Island is a ridiculous music but also their music is good. But nu metal, I kind of question it's actually metal, because what does like a Limp Bizkit have in common with like a Metallica, or even like if you want to go the early days of metal, kind of the heavy metal, like, arguably Led Zeppelin, or even Van Halen, or even like one of my favorite eras of rock music, the hair metal era, with like Guns N' Roses and stuff.
You're about to send Zach on a downward spiral hill saying hair metal's metal.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's saying. Hair metal probably has more in common with metal than nu metal does with metal. I feel like they call it nu metal, but it doesn't have that much in common with like the origins of metal.
Let me give you all a
Zach,
history lesson.
Matthew, listen, Zach, Gregory, Matthew has decided he wants to test your metal. Do you accept his challenge?
He's chosen violence. I accept it.
Sure, please.
Man.
Please.
Okay. You're forgetting the link between the old school thrash metal and nu metal is Pantera.
Yes.
And Pantera started the down-tuning, started the more heavy, brooding songs instead of just thrashing and stuff like that. And that style influenced a lot of bands in the early 90s, and therefore it influenced bands like Korn and Slipknot. And, Limp Bizkit has the DNA of metal because of the downtuning and the heavy riffs and stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say, I never understood the critique of new metal not being metal when, in reality, it's probably the most metal of all the subgenres of metal. Because
I would disagree with that.
Because, it's a combination of multiple different styles and derivations of metal songs. Even if you listen to the first Korn song that's ever been made, if you listen to Blind, you hear a whole bunch of stuff in there. You hear some groove influence, you hear death metal influence, you hear some, what would we have called this, alternative metal influence-ish, kind of like Faith No More. You hear all of that within one song. Funk metal, if I didn't say that before, because there's the bass slapping and whatnot. And then you also hear a little bit of rap influence, which rap isn't metal, but there was already rap metal. So the thing that makes metal, in general, is the aggressiveness of the guitars. Outside of that, I don't really see how people could say that new metal isn't metal. They could say it's bad or that they don't like it, but that it's not metal, it doesn't make any sense. It's metal based on the aggressive guitar riffs. But yeah,
I wouldn't say that aggressiveness for guitars is the sole thing that makes metal, but that's just me speaking personally, because if you ask me, that would cause a lot of stuff that I wouldn't consider metal to be classified as metal. Of course, you'd also have to have your own definition of aggressive as well, so...
And if I can add something. Matthew said that new metal isn't metal because it sounds different than Led Zeppelin and, Guns N' Roses. I don't understand how that's correlated at all, because Led Zeppelin was barely metal even at their heaviest moments, and hair metal is probably the least metal of any subgenre.
I've said it before. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Presence by Led Zeppelin is metal. The rest of it isn't.
Well, we can debate that. We've already debated that, I think. But I think a lot of what metal is not about following a strict code of conduct. If that was true, metal would never have been a thing, because metal was about pushing the boundaries. And bands like Korn and Slipknot and Limp Bizkit, they push the boundaries of what can be metal.
That's rock in general, honestly.
Yeah.
Alright, Matthew, care to respond?
Sure. I think Zach is basically misconstruing my words about how saying about my comments about how new metal and the previous people Led Zeppelin and Van Halen. The point of the matter is that new metal is just ridiculous in terms of trying to do something that's quote unquote new. It's not even the new, I mean, I have to give it that saying new is creative. However, new doesn't automatically mean good. And there isn't really a piece of work from new metal era outside of a few, maybe Linkin Park, which stands the test of time, and most of the new metal is somewhat dated, and I would like to use.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna give it to Ben because
Yeah, I was wanting to hear from Ben here at some point too, because The question really here is whether or not new metal is good, which granted Matthew's gone a little bit back on track here, but first of all, we haven't heard from Ben, and second of all, I feel like he may have a somewhat more relevant comment than some of the ones Matthew has made.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna dispute that new metal is more, is adventurous. It definitely is in many ways. I mean, I don't think that could be denied. But I think that has a certain hitch to it, which other musics do, including Hail Metal, which was already mentioned, and also a bunch of other musics.
And Van
like, from the
Halen.
60s and 70s. Van Halen, too. But it has such a style of, like, I was gonna call it grungy, but I'm not trying to associate with actual grunge. I don't mean grungy like it's like Kurt Cobain, but like grungy and like oily, like greasy.
Like the Hell of Hell metal artists?
Yeah. Okay. Like a texture that feels. I mean, obviously, it's all a performance. All music is a performance, but there's like a certain grunginess, not grunge.
No, I would agree with you.
That I personally do not find appealing. I mean, that there's the way that they've merged hip hop influences and rock influences has managed to focus on the elements of hip hop that I don't like as much, as opposed to the elements that I do like. Because like Gregory, I like Public Enemy and stuff. I honestly like Run DMC, which is like that to some extent, which is obviously kind of considered an antecedent to new metal. Like that, but Public Enemy in particular is like probably in like my top 2-3 favorite hip hop artists. But the things I like, especially about Public Enemy, is like the almost postmodern approach to like sampling with like almost like a mosaic approach, and also then lyrically, I think hip hop has been is obviously a very lyrical genre, especially in a lot of forms. It does tend to have more stripped back elements, focusing on beats and breaks. That, I mean, I kind of like more produced hip hop than less produced, honestly. So in that sense, maybe I should like new metal. But there's just something about the way they've combined it, about just with its like, it kind of feels puzzly, to be honest. Which I generally try to avoid analysis like that, because like intellectually it doesn't like work very well. I think because all art is all music and stuff, all performance, all art, but I don't. And like there were clearly authentic emotions in some of these songs, but some of them I feel like they're being undermined by the way they're being presented, or like I don't know. It just feels excessive in some ways. It feels but I mean, it's metal. I mean, it's going to be excessive. I have no problem with that. But like the way, I don't know, the way it combines things is just annoying to me in most cases. We will probably get onto like the exceptions. I've heard a few questionable new metal songs that I've enjoyed parts of. But I'm going to toss it back to whoever wants to speak now.
Yeah, like, so I think with Limp Bizkit specifically, because I feel like they are the ones that they mixed how do I say this? Limp Bizkit mixed the most amount of hip hop influence in their music early on, like the first 3-4 albums, because I didn't know this until I started getting into Eric B. and Rakim, but there's a lot of samples from Eric B. and Rakim songs. There's samples from Public Enemy songs and different references to that era of rap in Limp Bizkit songs. Like, what was it? Pick Out My Melody. My Way. I thought that was Fred Durst that was saying that, and it was a sampled loop being played. But no, that's from the song My Melody by Eric B. and Rakim. Or in Rearranged, which is the My Way of Significant Other, when he says just think about it, that's also from an Eric B. and Rakim song, and it's sampled. It's not Fred. Fred only says it that one time at the end of the song, but when it's played in the chorus, it's a sample of Eric B. and Rakim on the song. I can't remember which song it is. It's one of their first albums. But yeah, the lyrical content, like, there's no real lyricist in nu metal. I'll admit that. To the extent that there's any real lyricist in nu metal, it's Mike Shinoda, and that's pretty much it. But I think the part about the rap thing that I liked the most within nu metal was what Corey Taylor did with the screaming and rapping, because no one had ever really done that except for Mike Patton on Surprise You're Dead on what's the album? I can't think of the album. The one with Epic on it.
The real thing.
Yeah. And so for me, I always considered the vocal style. Oh, and OTEP. OTEP is obviously probably the best lyricist besides Mike Shinoda and all of nu metal. But I think the vocal deliveries of some of the rapping within nu metal was the thing that I found to be more innovative outside of the usage of samples and turntables. But yeah, sorry, I kind of rambled there.
Well, whoever wants the floor has it.
I mean,
Sorry.
I guess I'll come back. Yeah, I mean, I think just the big. I'll agree that I finally could pop more tolerable. But yeah, I mean, I don't really get. Now, like, I did not start off as like a fan of hip hop. This is an acquired taste of mine. So I may be coming at it from like. Also, I'm like coming at it from like a college student's perspective. Which, you know, I mean, I think you could guess what I find better or worse just based off of that. But, like, well, and not just like a college student, like a social sciences, humanities perspective. So, like, I get that my opinions on hip hop are at the same time kind of generic and also, like, you know, kind of coming from a different place simultaneously. But, like, the things I mean, with sampling, I mean, I don't care just that they're all samples. And, like, I'm sure that there will probably be some cases of samples that I have heard and did not understand, such as the nature of that art form, in nu metal. But I think more broadly speaking, I don't feel like the nu metal songs I've listened to have done anything interesting with those samples, or interesting to me at least. Or it was in some way informing like the rest of the qualities of the songs, be it the lyrics or like the presentation or whatever. Like you would see in Public Enemy.
Well, I think that's kind of the beauty of the samples in a lot of the nu metal songs, because you either don't notice them or they kind of just blend in and it's just accepted that it's there. Because I ended up finding I had a newfound love for the old Limp Bizkit songs I used to listen to whenever I was younger, because I found out about those little samples here and there and these references to these hip-hop songs that were not even barely 10 years old at the time, because I think, what was it, $3 Bill Y'all came out in 97, so Eric B. and Rakim was 86, 87. Public Enemy's 86, 87, 88. So, like, I think that's actually the beauty of those samples is you don't notice them or they're hard to miss. And if you do catch them, it's because you you're a huge hip hop head when it comes to golden age stuff. Because I'm pretty sure that's why a lot of rappers had a great deal of respect for Fred Durst, even though he wasn't necessarily the best rapper. It's because he grew up listening to the same music that they did, and he would put these references to Rakim in his songs, and Technique from Public Enemy, and a lot of the other rappers of that time, they did that as well. Like Eminem, he did that too. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but I mean, my response to that is like, what's the point of the sample then? Like from an autistic perspective, I mean, like I can get that it can make it sound a little bit better, but like my theoretical defense, I guess, of hip hop, you know, I mean, as samples can sometimes convey lots of meaning, and sometimes, like in Public Enemy, because of the mosaic nature of it, can convey. The individual sample is not duper important in conveying meaning, but it's like the creation of the mosaic that is interesting. And like I could kind of get like maybe the use of that within the intersection of like guitars and drumming and whatnot. But at the same time, there's still like a point that the collection of the samples in Public Enemy is making to like give a sound that like reflects, you know, either like the life in this city or like in this like influences from the '70s or whatnot that convey ideas. I mean, in some ways, that is kind of the origin points of hip hop that will within Marvin Gaye's what's going on and stuff. The use of like sounds in that specifically are used to create like a sense of movement, of populace of the city, and of like protest and whatnot. And I just don't get that in new metal. And I'm not saying that that's not the only reason to use samples. I think like on like Eminem Stan or like other things like that have used samples very well in the way of like taking them out and then recontextualizing them. I think that that's also a very excellent form of use of that. But I don't really see that in new metal. And once again, like we said with lyrics, the main thing I find when I enjoy hip hop, or I'm like, wow, this is actually quite good. When I say to hip hop, it's like the lyrics a lot of the times, because that's like, well, I think just as a medium, that's where strength lies, because of how much number one words you could put in it, and number two, just the importance of rapping in it is just central. And
Ben, can I stop you there?
yes,
I'm assuming you said essential.
yes, but it's not like
It sounded
essential.
It sounded like sensual to me.
Essential. I mean, we could do essential. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think it's an essential element of like hip hop. That like, I've heard hip hop instrumentals and stuff, but like, I do still think that lyrics is like one, and like a poetry element of hip hop is like one of its like strengths as a medium. And I don't really get either the like interesting uses of samples or the, you know, emphasis on lyricism in new metal. So it kind of just leads me to be like, what's the point of the hip hop part of this?
So, like, for me, so for me, I just love samples and love finding out what is a sample, or listening to an album where I've gone on whosampled.com and I know every sample in the song. Like, I just like samples. That's why I've been listening to a lot of Golden Age hip hop and New Jack Swing lately. So for me, I don't necessarily think that the sample has to have a point. I just think that having the sample and being able to use it is a good thing. Like,
I think
in
that,
general.
I
There
think
could be
that, like, the
bad
whole
times
point-
where people sample things, but I mean, there could be like bad ways where people sample things and it doesn't sound that good, and I can probably give some examples of that. But in general, I just like samples and the way people use them.
I think that even when a sample doesn't necessarily have a point, the point is it's paying tribute to the artist, and the artist, they're just showing their respect for the artist by sampling their music.
Exactly, especially nowadays, because back whenever sampling first started, no one really cared that much about the artist's perspective on what they thought of the sample. Like with James Brown, he was just the only reason why James Brown's music ended up being sampled so much in hip hop back in the day is because he didn't mind it, and it just, which was also funny because he didn't even pay or give credit to a lot of the musicians that
Can I
actually
say
wrote a lot of the
something?
stuff. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
The reason he didn't mind it is because he literally sang the song "I Don't Mind."
Yeah.
I had to go for the pun. I'm sorry.
But yeah, but I think especially nowadays, whenever people sample stuff like that or interpolate stuff, it is to kind of pay homage to that specific artist, or and occasionally back then they would do this too, where they would actually name the song after what the song was named, or they would mention it in the song. Like, I think, what was it? In Fight the Power, Funky Drummer sampled in there, and at the beginning of the song he says, "Sound of the Funky Drummer." And then he says, "I know you got soul," and then "I know you got soul" is also sampled in there, and or the song "I Know You Have Soul" by Eric B. and Rakim. That song is sampled in it, and that's not technically a James Brown song because he's credited as the writer, but it's a Bobby Bird song. But yeah.
Matthew.
Wait, Matthew, do you want to speak?
Yeah, sure. I think like sampling is, a good thing and all that, and pays tribute to all, all references to different kinds of music. I think that's great. I think that grows people's music tastes. However, I think that the sampling of new metal songs is, I don't, it's good that they sampled a lot of really good music, but also it's still not good. Like, the only, I think, new metal song that basically samples a different song that I think is, like, decent enough, or even to, dare I say, good, is the Smooth Criminal one by, I believe, Ant Farm.
Alien Ant Farm, yeah.
Yeah, but also every Smooth Criminal by Ant Farm, you get Faith by Limp Bizkit.
Whoa, now. Okay.
Don't forget,
Faith by Limp Bizkit is at least better than the Faith by George Michael's, okay?
No,
George Michael.
Yes,
Listen.
Whoa, wait.
I will forever defend Faith by Limp Bizkit.
No,
Me too.
no,
I will never forgive Fred Durst for doing what he did to Behind Blue Eyes.
Hey, I'll defend that one too.
Exactly,
It's not as good as the original, but it's decent.
Nobody hates their cover of Behind Blue Eyes like I do, and I blame you.
But that's just outrageous. Faith by George Michael is like an icon.
It's okay. It's a good song. I'm not gonna
It's
say
not
you're
as
wrong.
good as Behind Blue
It's
Eyes.
mediocre. Faith by George Michael is mediocre. Faith by Limp Bizkit is legendary.
Behind Blue Eyes by The Who is better than Faith by George Michael, which is better than Behind Blue Eyes by Limp Bizkit, which is better than Faith by Limp Bizkit.
Well, I'm gonna let. Can I finish? Maybe because
Go ahead, Matthew.
I do not like the slander towards Faith by George Michael. I mean, that's like an iconic song.
It's his best song.
They're both iconic.
Careless Whisper. That's his best song.
No.
Okay, Seether also did a better cover of that song too. So
no.
Yes, I'll defend both covers. Yes.
No, this is ridiculous. But like, their rendition of Faith is honestly probably the worst cover, one of the worst covers ever. Like, of one of the most important pop songs of the '80s, and I guess Ben, if you want to speak, you can speak. You can speak now.
Okay, Taylor.
Is that
anyway?
Taylor? Yeah.
Oh my
Anyway, so yeah, when I was listening to the cover of Faith, I started out being like, honestly, this isn't that bad. And then the script, it's like, I guess this is metal, but this really doesn't belong in this song. And then the record scratches started. And it's like, no, that doesn't even sound good. And
Ben, the record scratches. Listen, Ben was listening to record scratches, and when he heard them, it caused him to have a crisis of faith.
That's cool.
So do we think all nu metal covers are like bad? Because there's like a ton of nu metal covers. Like Disturbed.
I just said that the nu metal version of
Land of Confusion by Disturbed. That's incredible.
It's a good one, yeah.
Ish nu metal cover I've heard of a song is still the version of Smooth Criminal. That one is actually a pretty good, decent song.
See, yeah, that's a good one because Smooth Criminal is my favorite Michael Jackson song, and that was the first song I ever heard by Alien Ant Farm. I was like, bro, and it was the music video too. So the music video for that song is even like good as well.
All I have to say is shout out to a whole episode on overrated songs in which I shout out the original Michael Jackson version of Smooth Criminal as an overrated song.
Jesus, what's wrong with you? It's an appropriate. It's actually an underrated song, I would say.
It's one of his
because
least good songs.
Man also said that. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead. What did he say?
This man also said that Nirvana is an overrated band. So
Nirvana is an overrated band.
Matthew, you were the one who said that Smells Like Teen Spirit as your first pick for the most overrated song.
Yeah, but also Nirvana is a decent band.
They're a decent band, I'll agree. That doesn't mean they're not overrated. I'd say Pink Floyd is an overrated band. I'd say Fleetwood Mac's an overrated band. And both of those are better than Nirvana.
I think most bands that came out before 1985 are overrated. Like you're probably not going to get on board with saying.
Are you saying
like,
Badger was overrated?
Who?
Well, you say Badger was overrated. See, no one's really heard of them.
No.
They're a band that came out before 1985, so you can't say they're overrated because I'm the only person out there shilling for Badger.
Well, then they're underrated. Then
they're an underrated band. I agree. Thank you, Gregory.
But let's see, what other nu metal covers are there? There's Shock the Monkey with Cold Chamber and Ozzy Osbourne. That's really good. I think that's originally a Peter Gabriel song.
Yeah, it's originally a Peter Gabriel song. I have the album it's originally on, the original.
There's Shout by Disturbed. That's like an okay cover. I don't remember how the original sounds. But let's see, there's the Midlife Crisis cover with Disturbed. That one's okay, I guess. I never really cared for the Faith No More song anyway.
What about The Sound of Silence by Disturbed?
That's the superior version of that song.
Ben is going to put that. Ben!
Oh my, I love that song.
Ben.
Yeah, okay, obviously the Disturbed cover of Sounds of Silence is very bad. I mean, it's very...
Oh my god.
It's not
okay,
bad.
no,
It's objectively
No, it's
good.
not.
everyone,
so good.
almost everyone agrees with me. That is just it just, I don't even know what else to say. It just is so much worse.
The original's
The
an
original's
amazing
excellent.
song. The original's one of the greatest songs of all time.
That cover is obviously not. I don't even know. Kind of like with the Behind Blue Eyes cover. It kind of misses the point. On the other hand, I do at least think Fred Durst sort of understands what Behind Blue Eyes is about. I don't really think the star even knows what the hell Sounds of Silence is about.
This is just malarkey right now. Like saying
I mean-
Sound of-
Do they
Sorry.
have to know what the song is about to do it good? Because I still think even if they miss the point, which I agree with that critique, because I actually understand what people mean when they say that. I agree with that, but I still think that they performed the song better than the original
And
is performed.
I
not
mean,
knowing the point. Go ahead. Sorry.
I think. I mean, in some ways, maybe in an abstract theoretical sense, one can like transform all without knowing what it means. The little pieces are all very
Because like
good, but I don't think that is better than the original. I would very much rather listen to the original. I mean, I don't know what else to say. And also, the point is not. It's not like they. I don't think they do anything interesting with it. That's like, wow, they've created a new meaning through death of the author. But will be so proud. It's like, what is this? Go ahead, Zach.
well,
I feel
go
like
ahead.
not getting the point of a song that you cover and totally transforming the song are different things. And I think Disturbed kind of transformed the Sound of Silence. It's kind of like how Metallica transformed "Turn the Page" by Bob Seger, which was this like very just chill, melancholy song, and they turned it into a very like powerful, heavy song.
I would like to say something, which is, Zach is right. You don't necessarily have to understand it in order to make a complete transformation that does have merit. And I will agree that Disturbed made or whatever it's called, made a complete transformation. The question, but the fact that you don't have to understand the song that Zach said, the thing that Zach said, that you don't have to understand the song to make a complete transformation of the song, that is odd and is distinct from the original. Zach's right, Bill. At the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean just because you can make
Yes, you should.
a complete transformation that you should, or that it's going to be good, which as was the case with The Sounds of Silence.
Well, in my
I agree
opinion-
it was a autistic endeavor, but I won't agree it had a good result, musically, sonically.
I mean, I don't think anyone here can criticize new metal for not taking risk. They did definitely take a lot of risk on a lot of things. I think the fundamental disagreement here is ultimately, does it sound good to us? And like, some of us think no, and some of us think yes. I mean, and I don't. There's a lot of other differences here, but like, for instance, moving back to Behind Blue Eyes, which we really didn't talk about that much. I mean, besides the point that I think Fred Durst, though he does, I think, understand the point to some extent. I don't think he's like the. Okay, so what I see Fred Durst doing in that song is he's like trying to be like. He's trying to do something transformative while also sort of understanding the point of the song. He's like, well, this is about like a despicable person, but there's also some empathy for him in the song. It's just like, it's like trying to develop empathy for this despicable person. But then for some reason, he's like, in the Who version, it's like, well, that despicable person is a character in a rock opera. It's a performance. Fred Durst tries to personalize it. Like, it's me. I'm the despicable person. Then he also cuts out the more sympathetic part of the song. At the end, where it's like, with my Kresk at my 5 fist. Then just crack it open before I use it and lose control. And like that section,
And if I swallow
that bridge,
something evil.
that's like more sympathetic. That shows like opening. He chops out to make it like even more edgy, I guess. Like more about like how evil and like despicable he is. But shows again, he's doing this to himself. And then he slaps autotune on it for I don't know what reason, to just make it sound bad, I guess. And it doesn't work. Like I don't think Fredorst is evil.
That's why the auto-tune just makes it that much worse.
Yeah, the autotune makes no sense even within my understanding of like what Fredorst seems to be doing. But like, because autotune works, I guess, best as an autistic instrument to like distance the speaker, to dehumanize the speaker. But like that's not the point of the song. The point of the song is to humanize the bad guy. I already don't like Fredorst. I don't think of him as like the bad guy. He just seems like a silly guy. And ultimately, and then he like uses the song that's about humanizing the bad guy, being like the bad guy's me, and then does moves on it that then dehumanizes that relative to the original. So it ends up, besides just not sounding good to me, making no goddamn sense.
So, two things. So at the time, whenever they put out Behind Blue Eyes, this was during the time when Fred Durst and Limp Bizkit had become like the most hated band like in the world.
There's a reason for that.
Not good, not real or true reasons, but for whatever reason, that's what was the case. So that's kind of why the song makes sense in that context. Outside of that context, it really kind of does seem a little random, because even I think on the cover art for the single, he even has blue eyes on there. Like it's just his face with blue eyes.
It did make sense to cover. I don't think any of us will disagree with you there.
Yeah, and so the other thing, to circle back to the understanding the point of the song and covering it, so kind of related to that, a lot of samples that were used in songs were not, like, this is why I say that it really doesn't necessarily matter if you understand the point of something before you cover it. A lot of samples that people were using came from songs that had absolutely nothing to do with or around the songs that they were making. A good example, my favorite example of this, because this is like super wild to me. Do you guys know the song "The Humpty Dance" by Digital Underground?
No.
I think so.
No.
I think so.
Okay, whenever this is over, look it up. It's a silly song about a dance and Humpty. Anyway, it's like a really silly song, and it was really popular in like 1990. But then the main part of that song, the main loop of that song, was sped up and put in a TLC song in 1992.
Wait, which TLC song?
Say what?
Which TLC song?
It's called Her Story.
Not one of the ones I know. Okay, sorry.
It's on their first album, and the song that they sampled the Humpty Dance on is about a woman getting sexually assaulted and having no one believe her story. Like, hearing that the Humpty Dance was sampled in that song, a really silly song, was sampled in a very serious song, and hearing that loop, it's like, okay, why would you do that, though? I mean, this is like a really it's a good song. I still like the song, but sometimes I'm like, that's like a really wild thing. Like people were just taking the weirdest samples and like putting them to these songs, or vice versa, taking really serious songs and sampling them in really weird, unserious songs. But it all works at the end of the day. That's the only thing I had to add about the other thing. But yeah.
I will say for the record that my favorite TLC song is on that album.
Oh, which one is it?
It's like
Which
Baby,
song?
Baby, Baby or something.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't like that song because it's not New Jack Swing, really. I like the New Jack Swing songs in there, so I usually skip that song.
Cringe.
My favorite TLC song is the iconic No Scrubs.
Mine is also on that first album. It's What About Your Friends? I love that song.
Anyone else have an opinion?
Yes, I do.
What is it,
My
Zach?
favorite TLC song is With Arms Wide Open.
Okay, I have to admit, even as someone who is a huge skeptic of new metal, I don't think it's good. I don't think it was a good. Oh wait, that's not new metal.
Yeah, I was about to be like,
I was gonna give new metal credit, but I'm like, wait a second, Creed is not a new metal song.
Creed has elements of new metal.
Okay, but I do like
will
With
say that.
Arms Wide Open.
Ben hates
that's
that
still
song.
not a...
Everyone loves With Arms Wide Open.
I do not hate that song. I said that the... well, we will discuss this again at some point, Zach. But I said that I didn't like the singing on that song. Not that I thought that the instrumentation was bad. It's kind of corny, but it works with the lyrics. I think the lyrics are good on that song.
Corny? Is that a Korn reference?
Yes, it's a Korn reference. I actually listened to some song by Korn. Let's think about what its name was. It had like some bad scatting in it. I'm blanking out what the name of it was. It had really... It sorted out okay. And it had like really bad scatting in it. I don't know. I mean, yeah, but with Arms Wide Open is not a new metal song. That's not what I'm thinking about.
No, that song is not.
I would like a new... Honestly, I would like to see a new metal version of With Arms Wide Open. I would pay to see that.
With Arms Wide Open definitely isn't a new metal song, but there are definitely Creed songs that I would argue are new metal.
Well, we at least have one person who can play guitar. If we could just find some other instrumentalist, then maybe we can get a new metal version of it, Matthew.
I can legit sing the song if we have to.
Alright. Okay, we have a guitarist, we have a vocalist.
Who can play drums? Anyone?
My cousin, I think, might be able to... I don't know if he still plays drums, but he played drums around 2012-ish.
Okay.
I can do the bass as well.
This is amazing. Anyway, back to new metal. What are y'all's thoughts on Linkin Park? That's like the one...
That's the band that got me into new metal.
I love Linkin Park. I love Linkin Park.
Yeah, that's like the one band I can give you about Linkin new metal that I'm like, okay, this is decent.
Decent?
It's decent.
Linkin Park is very much more than decent.
Yeah, it's decent, but I mean, compared to the rest of new metal, I mean, it's listenable.
Okay,
I mean, I like the chorus.
Hot take. So, like, my hot take is that I still think Limp Bizkit, as far as new metal goes, I'm not going to sit here and say I think Linkin Park or Limp Bizkit's the overall better band or has the better discography. As far as new metal goes, if we're putting, like, I guess the first 3 Limp Bizkit albums up against the first 2 Linkin Park albums, I say Limp Bizkit did new metal better than Linkin Park did.
Okay. I would say,
and that's a hot take, I know, but still.
I would say that the best new metal song of all time is "Bring Me to Life" by Evanescence. That's
It's a good one.
That's a take. That's definitely a take.
it is. I mean, it's just a great song all around.
I like that song. But I could choose like 20s. Go ahead.
I actually grew to not like that. I actually really don't like that song anymore. I got super. Yeah, like I got super into Evanescence my freshman year of high school because that's when I first started getting into new metal, and so. But what happened is because Evanescence is two things: they are gothic metal and new metal. If you go down the gothic metal like rabbit hole, you'll find bands like Lacuna Coil and Within Temptation that basically do the non-new metal version of what Evanescence did, but better. So I kind of didn't really, I appreciate the first album that Evanescence did really well. Outside of the fact that it was kind of really sounded like it was derivative directly of Linkin Park in a way, which is why I liked it. But I just it, but also that song isn't. Oh, it was corporatized. Like that's an actual song where it's like, oh no, the executives came in and said that this rapping has to be on it. So it's like, yeah, and I just don't like that song as much, especially when the rest of that album is even better. Like Whisper, Going Under, Everybody's Fool. Those are like way better songs that I would put forward as good songs on there. But no, best new metal song of all time, I would say. Oof. Come back to me. I know I have an answer for it though, but I can't think of it at the moment.
If I can add something to the Evanescence is corporatized, if I remember correctly,
that song specifically. Yeah.
I think the label literally went in there and told them they needed more men in the band.
Yeah.
So
basically.
I feel like, wait, when did you first know that song, Gregory, about Bring Me Back to Life? When was like the first exposure to Bring Me to Life?
I was like 5 whenever it first came out. So like on the radio when I was like 5.
Okay,
It's
so
one of the first handful of songs I remember hearing whenever I was little.
okay, I was gonna say my first exposure to that song was from classic 2003 movie Daredevil.
Uh-oh.
What's up?
Oh, I meant about Daredevil. That movie has not a great reputation.
Are you sure that's a very good movie? Probably the best rendition of Daredevil.
Daredevil, like from Marvel.
Compared to the TV show? Compared to the TV show, Matthew, really?
Yes.
The movie is better than the TV show.
I don't even know, man.
What are you talking? Okay, we're not a new metal anymore, but that is a shockingly bizarre take. No, obviously the TV show was better. But
that's
anyway,
I'm joking. That basically that the TV show clears the movie. I was being very sarcastic.
Okay, here's what I got to say about new metal. Honestly, my favorite new metal, and this will kind of Rage Against the Machine is new metal, I guess.
I do not like Rage Against the Machine.
I like Rage Against the Machine.
Rage Against the Machine is
new metal. No, they're not new metal. They're not.
Oh yeah,
How can they be new metal? They're not. They
Yeah,
came out in
They
'92.
blend metal with rap. Like that's the definition of new metal.
They're rap metal and funk metal. They are not new metal.
With, rap rock is, I guess, what I'd say. Rap
Rap
metal.
rock.
Yeah,
Because new metal as the term didn't get coined until '94. Like the first actual new metal anything was Korn. Now we could say post hoc that Faith No More or Rage Against the Machine or Living Color are new metal bands, but I still don't think that they are. I still wouldn't call them new metal because there's more to new metal than just simply rapping over metal. Like even the more simplistic bands that didn't have turntables and stuff like that, there was more to them than simply rapping over metal riffs. But yeah, go ahead.
That's correct, but I think a lot of it is also about Rage Against the Machine's attitude, and that's very new metal in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like the whole like fight the power. Like the whole fight the
Nah.
power, screw everyone, that kind of deal.
Well, no, because theirs is more from a political standpoint. Now, I think a band that might match that is System of a Down, but they're a
Yeah.
little bit more complex with their music than, Rage Against the Machine. Not to say that Rage Against the Machine is super simplistic, but it's, I would say, as far as attitude, I would still say that they were definitely influential to the genre itself of nu metal, because all the bands
I think
claim them as an
I think
influence.
Rage Against the
Yeah.
Machine. I think Rage Against the Machine is nu metal in the same way that a band like, let's just say, Deep Purple could be considered heavy metal
Yeah.
because they had the structure down pat and they understood the assignment, I guess. But they weren't the final destination of heavy metal, and Rage Against the Machine wasn't the final destination of nu metal.
Yeah, I like that. I like that characterization, because you could also say the same thing about Faith No More.
Right. And then, stretching this back a little bit farther, when Anthrax covered Bring the Noise with Public Enemy, that's
Or when they
definitely
did I'm the
heavy
Man.
bands. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Forgot about that song. Those
I
are
know,
definitely the bands of nu metal.
Yeah. Oh yeah, especially I'm the Man, because I'm the Man and Bring Me the Horizon, Jesus. No, Bring the Noise, they had like turntables in them, and there was more to it than it was just them rapping over thrash riffs. It was, well, the fact that they were rapping over thrash riffs was a whole other different thing, but I would say I'm the Man is probably, arguably, if we're going to say something is nu metal without it being, coined nu metal, I'm the Man is probably like the first official nu metal song.
I would agree
Because
with that.
because it has the turntables, and it's not just a regular metal song and it doesn't have funk influence. It's thrash riffs that they're rapping over. It's just slower thrash riffs, kind of groovish.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I definitely agree that I'm the Man is the first nu metal song.
just not in name. Whatever
Right.
a nu metal not in name only. Yeah.
Alright, so Ben, have you come to any conclusion here?
I mean, honestly, I don't think that Rage Against the Machine is nu metal, because I don't think it's felt to be like they all screw everyone. They nu metal tends to be complaining about personal things a lot of the times. I don't know, very cynic. Honestly, while Rage Against the Machine sometimes falls into a little bit too much edgy cynicism about politics, they all more empathetic. So this is another thing I don't like about nu metal. Nu metal is kinda tends to, or at least some of the songs tend to be kind of self-centered, and there tends to be just kind of a, I don't know. It seems like
we can go back.
What do you mean by self-centered?
Okay.
As
opposed to political, I guess.
Say what? Say that again, Ben.
As opposed to political, it's really. It feels like they're mostly just kind of complaining about their own lives, and I don't get along with my parents or some stuff. While Rage Against the Machine is, singing about disaster revolt, or police brutality, or things that are not directly happening to them.
Ben, are you accusing Quantum Mania of being nu metal?
No. Also,
Yes,
I would say that
Quantumania
they're
was
more
the first nu
direct.
metal album. That's
because it's whining about, I don't get along with my family.
I mean, it does. So we
very-
have already discussed this in a great deal of length in a Who episode.
Yeah. For the record, for those who aren't in on the joke, Quantum Mania is what Matthew has started calling quadrophenia by the Who. Which technically matches Ben's description of why he doesn't like new metal.
If I can add something here, I think that saying that new metal is self-centered and is just it's saying stuff like it's about I don't get along with my parents. I feel like that's a very watered down way of looking at it. And even if it is only looking at personal issues, it's issues that people can relate to.
Yeah,
and that's
not just
that's why,
teenagers too.
Right?
It's not just
And it's like, talking about like mental health stuff, that's probably the reason why new metal got as popular as it did, was because a lot of people could relate to that and they felt seen in the songs.
Yeah, like
I mean,
Gregory.
I often say to people, back in the day, we used to have new metal in Insane Clown Posse and Eminem, and that's the outlets where men could express their feelings. Young men could express their feelings and feel seen and heard. But now we have the Red Pill, Andrew Tate, the alt-right, and that's where we have basically allowed young men to go if they feel lonely or sad or have like emotions that they don't necessarily understand. They have no real outlet for it because we tell people that ICP is bad, or that being a fan of new metal or liking Limp Bizkit is bad, or that's kind of the way that I look at things whenever I see it, because that's why I like new metal.
The solution to today's problems, the problems of today's youth, the solution is to aggressively promote quadrophenia. The album, the movie soundtrack, Ant-Man and the Wasp no, not actually Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, that movie was kind of trash. The Quadrophenia movie, though, was good. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania isn't.
Can I just say something?
Go ahead.
I will say, even as like a new metal skeptic. Yeah, hater, skeptic. I would kind of push back about what Ben's saying, how new metal is a bit self-centered, because I think you can put that onto like a lot of music, and I think Gregory did put out a good point that new metal gave good outlet for young men to like express their feelings. I do have to give him that.
Look,
because that's how I related to the stuff. Like, that's why I started listening to new metal whenever I was around 13, 14, 15, was because I could relate to everything that Chester Bennington and Mike Shinoda were talking about, even Fred Durst.
Listen,
I could relate to a lot of that stuff. And they were actually talking about their real emotions. It wasn't just something they made up. Like, a lot of people want to say that Fred Durst was just being fake with his emotions and whatnot. But no, he was talking about real feelings that he had. He really wanted to break stuff, okay?
Listen,
like, sometimes you do.
That's a respectable thing.
Listen, I just want to say, I don't even like new metal. I actually think it sounds bad, but the arguments you two, Ben and Matthew, have pulled out as to why it's bad, or just really awful arguments. I mean, it isn't metal, or it talks too much about feelings or not getting along with one's parents.
I never said it wasn't metal.
No, but Matthew said that. Matthew said that.
Okay, my main argument is that, not the thing about it talks... Look, the thing about it being self-centered is only in relation to Rage Against the Machine, not in relation to anything else. I do agree that it's quite reasonable to talk about one's feelings. If Fred Durst can replace Andrew Tate, let's give him the Nobel Peace Prize.
You say that like Rage Against the Machine is better than...
I would agree we need more Fred Durst.
Metal.
He seems like a...
Rage Against the Machine is better than new metal.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
I mean, I probably like Rage Against the Machine more than any other new metal band that's not Slipknot. I will say that because Rage Against the Machine is one of my favorite bands of all time.
I at least grok Rage Against the Machine a lot more than I do new metal. But yes, I mean, I'm not saying that new metal is not valid as an expression of people's personal angst, or even if people's personal angst isn't politically motivated or like politically relevant or politically charged or unempathetic or any of that stuff. I think that is true. I do think the way Rage Against the Machine goes about that is significantly different and less individualistic. Which is not to say that the way that nu metal goes against it is bad. A lot of music does that. I would say that the way Rage Against the Machine deals with Angle is different than nu metal.
Well,
That's all I'm trying to say. The main issue I have with nu
anger
metal is I don't get it, and it doesn't sound good to me.
Well, the anger in Rage Against the Machine songs is coming from a different place for different reasons. Their anger is because capitalism exists and we're like bombing other countries and stuff like that. As opposed to in nu metal, it's more about, you know, I am depressed and nobody at school likes me and I'm bullied and my parents don't understand, or I'm really lonely, or something like that. Like, it's two different types of anger. Like, the anger or the emotions are coming from different places for different reasons.
Yeah, no, I agree. But all I'm trying to say is that I don't consider Rage Against the Machine nu metal in regards to the position I was being advocated at. It's like screw everything. Honestly, I don't think it's really fair. Maybe to nu metal to be like it's like screw everything either, but sometimes it can be like that. Rage Against the Machine, I do not think that that's fair at all in the sense of politics reasons that we don't need to get into. But yeah, I mean, to the question of like what's my favorite nu metal song, I guess it's the cover of Alien Ant Farm's cover of Smooth Criminal, because that's like the only song other than like parts, I guess, of In Band by Linkin Park. It's chorus I enjoy listening to. The opening rap part, not so much. The Alien Ant Farm cover of Smooth Criminal, I do actually enjoy listening to. So I guess it's that.
Wait a minute. I think I just remembered something. I think I changed my mind about my favorite nu metal song. It's What I've Done by Linkin Park.
I don't consider that one to be a nu metal song.
Oh, okay. I just remember that song. This shows my age. I remember when it was on the Transformers trailer.
Yeah.
Even at the ending of Transformers, after Optimus Prime gives this speech, it also is one of my favorite things to say out loud randomly at an even flow. So, but since Zach doesn't consider it nu metal, I'm sticking with "Bring Me to Life" by Evanescence.
No, I definitely consider it nu metal.
Oh, okay. So now I remember the song that I usually consider to be the best nu metal song of all time. It's okay. So technically, it's two, but I'll give the deep cut one because I think it's more important. "Living It Up" by Limp Bizkit. It's track 7 on Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water. It's just really good. It's like a really nice feel-good song. You have Fred rhyming the same word together in a different sentence in like one of the verses or something like that. Ben Stiller gets a shout out. It's just a good song, and everybody in the band gets to display pretty much what they're good at. This other song I would probably say is probably My Generation, because it has the turntable solo in the middle of it. But yeah.
I would say that my favorite nu metal song. I don't think some of you are going to consider this nu metal, but it's my favorite Slipknot song. It's Snuff, and that song is just extremely powerful to me. But if that's not considered nu metal because it's softer and stuff, I I would probably say One Step Closer by Linkin Park.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I always, like, for me, when it comes to Slipknot, I don't, what is it? Okay, so I think their best album's their first album. I Was Good, Volume 3's good, but it's not that good. And then I think
I agree.
All Hope Is Gone is a really good album.
I definitely agree.
My beef with that album is that Snuff exists.
Oh god.
But
no.
it's not a bad song. It's not a bad song. I just don't like
Hey,
it.
you just put my man Zach in a bad place.
Oh god.
No, but it is a good song though. I mean, I just don't like it in reference to that album, I guess. Kind of like how I don't like not Vermilion. It's just a song on Volume 3 I don't like because it just doesn't vibe with the rest of the album to me.
Circle?
Say it again, Circle? That probably might be it.
I thought you were talking about the Post Malone song.
No. That doesn't vibe with the Slipknot album at all. Post Malone.
I would like a Slipknot cover of Circles by Post Malone.
Or Rockstar. That'd be even cooler.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
No, because like there's what is it? There's a song called are we allowed to cuss on this podcast?
It depends on what it is.
Well, it's the song by Soulfly called "Jump the Fuck Up" with Corey Taylor.
Okay, that's fine. I think that's fine. It's not like a score or anything.
He just cussed in this episode, so you're fine.
Yeah, that song is a good nu metal like duet. Not duet, I guess. Well, kind of duet. It's a feature. Yes, nu metal feature, because there wasn't ever a lot of songs in metal back in the day where bands got together and made songs, or different singers or artists within different bands got together and made songs together. But in nu metal, you have that all the time. Like there's Fred Durst being on All in the Family. There's Jonathan Davis being on Nobody Like You, on Significant Other. There's the one I just mentioned. There's Fred Durst on Bleed by Soulfly. Soulfly has a lot of these because there's Chino Marino did a song with Soulfly. And yeah, those types of crossovers are things I thought were really cool within nu metal because you don't see them anywhere else before that in metal. And now you kind of see them occasionally. But yeah.
Can I give my closing arguments?
Yeah, go ahead, Matthew. Is nu metal good or bad?
It's bad, but it's not the worst genre of all time. It is whatever Steely Dan made.
Jazz rock?
Yeah, like nu metal isn't a good. It's objectively not good, but
Chaotic neutral.
It's chaotic neutral. That's like a thing. It's like
it's good actually, except for Katie Lloyd, which is not a good album. Katie Lloyd's kind of a bad album, but for the Steely Dan's discography, is
let's not. Hopefully, he doesn't talk about Pretzel Logic.
Pretzel Logic's a good album.
Okay. But that's my position. It's not good. Also, it has helped a lot of people. And it's way better than Steely Dan.
I would say that, like, nu metal's definitely great, obviously.
Stop there.
Slipknot's the best one. Slipknot's definitely the best nu metal band. I like art. See you, Matthew.
See ya, Matthew.
Yeah.
Bye.
Alright, let's wrap this up. Ben.
Nu metal is pretty bad. It wasn't creative. It took risk. But ultimately, number one, I just don't connect to it that much. When I feel depressed, it's not feel like a nu metal song. Number two, I don't find it very aesthetically interesting. Sorry,
Look,
it just
I
doesn't
have to-
appeal to me.
I have to interject here, Ben. You would be able to connect it if you'd remember to bring your USB cable.
That's true. That's true. And also, I kinda don't get why it doesn't feel like it has the elements of hip hop in particular that I like find the best. That the way the samples are used in it, like a creative way, or in a referential in a postmodern way, and it doesn't use it doesn't put a lot of emphasis on lyricism, even if it's like even if it has lyrics to express things that it's and there are good songs that don't focus on lyricism, but they don't tend to be hip hop songs.
Benjamin hating prog rock conformed. Benjamin hates the band Camel
It's only about hip
conformed.
hop. It's only about hip hop. Only about hip hop.
Benjamin hates Camels conformed.
The things that I like about
They
hip
make good
hop,
soup.
I just don't want to get in it. That's just where I'm coming from. So it just doesn't appeal to me. Also, just kind of feels kind of grungy and silly, and when it's not trying to be silly, and I don't know. It just feels off.
Okay, for my actual closing argument, I will say I think new metal is good because it took risk and it influenced a lot of metal going forward to today, and it also helped a lot of people like express their feelings with their mental health stuff, which I think is cool.
Alright. Anyone else have anything else, or are we done here?
I think that's it.
Alright, well, thanks everyone for watching our episode on whether or not new metal is good or bad. I hope you'll be sure to like this video and subscribe. It's been a very long video, that's for sure. Please, I hope to see you in the next video. Go watch other episodes of Rock Roundtable. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and always remember, the Beach Boys are the best new metal band. Thank you, and good night, and God be with ye all.
So, Gregory, I don't know